Hey everybody, welcome back to the Renatus InvestEdge. My name is Jay Stark. It's truly my pleasure to welcome you to the call today. I want to give you a little bit of a rundown of the format for this call before I introduce our host of the remainder of our hour together. And the rundown is basically this. We bring out practitioner instructors who are making money in today's real estate landscape out live on a call to first give us some tips, tricks, have a conversation about what they're doing today in today's market to make money. And then we're going to open this call up for Q&A with you. So make sure that you get your questions entered as early as possible to ensure we can get to them before we run out of time. We tend to run out of time before we run out of questions. So get your questions in as early as possible because our instructor today is a consummate professional that you're not going to want to miss your opportunity to communicate with. Now, with no further ado, let me introduce the founder and the CEO of Renatus, an individual who has dedicated his life, his career, and now all of his time and talents to truly creating an opportunity to empower every single person that he meets, every single person that he works with. I can tell you from my own personal experience that he's created an opportunity that has allowed me not only to apply in my life processes and an education that has forever changed the course of my life, but he's given me the tools that have now allowed me to change the lives of my family. And they are starting to create new realities that I don't know I could have created any other way. So Mr. Snyder, on behalf of myself, my family, and of course our entire family, thank you. Thank you for Renatus. Hey. Thank you.
Man, thank you for the great introduction, Jay. You always do such an outstanding job, and I'm thrilled to be with everybody today for another episode of the Renatus InvestEdge. You know, like Jay mentioned, this is all about helping you to better understand the real estate landscape in today's marketplace. I mean, right now and what's going on. And that's the reason why we are so fortunate to have so many incredible experts in their field come forward on this every single Monday afternoon. So I would encourage you to do this. You know, you really ought to be going in and just hitting the subscribe button, you know, hitting the like button and the bell. Why? Because that bell is your notification. That means every single time we come up with another Renatus InvestEdge, you're going to get a notification. You'll be reminded of it so that you can benefit from all of the incredible information that's going to be shared with you. So I would encourage you to do that. But, you know, having said that, listen, there's a lot of other great stuff to talk about today. And the individual that we're bringing out here is an absolute rock star in our community. He's one of our favorite instructors. He's an individual, I've got to tell you, who came into this business as a seasoned investor. And he was very resistant to purchasing his education. He said, listen, I am too cool for school, baby. And as a result, he just said, what are you going to teach me? Well, he's going to share some wit and wisdoms with you so that you have a better understanding as to what he's learned in this experience and now what he's able to do to pay it forward in the Renatus community. He's such a great student that we also made him an instructor, Mr. Bill Oehme. And today we're going to be talking about creating wealth and what that really looks like and how we define that. I love the fact that we've got some special time with Bill. I have no doubt that he's going to share with you some of the things that, well, have really impacted his life and that will help to prepare you for a more successful real estate investing career. So, Mr. Bill Oehme, come on out here, buddy. We are so thrilled to have you with us.
Hey. Thanks, everybody. It's such an honor to be here.
Well, you look good on camera, and I see that you've proudly got some of your animals displayed on the board behind you there.
Yeah, if you could see down, it's cages and cages of our rescue animals. My office is occupied by many creatures here besides myself.
Well, what a lot of folks probably might not know is that you are dedicated so much of your life to rescuing animals. How many do you have on any given day?
Well, at my house, we have about 12 to 13. We end up with the sort of the hopeless, no-legged dogs, the blind dogs, the emu. But our charity, we have a charity, Circle of Friends Animal Society, COFAS.org. And the charity over the last, at least about 15 years, we've found homes for over 12,000 animals.
Wow.
In Lake Oconee, Georgia. And, you know, that's really been my passion, is the animal rescue part. And the real estate, the beautiful thing about the real estate is, and I'll talk about this in a second, because the real estate generates passive income, because you can be making money without working at it, you can be doing what your heart really wants to be doing. If
Yes.
mine's rescue or travel or whatever, we have a 12-acre ranch or a 12-acre sanctuary, and that is where we keep a lot of the animals. So my real estate allowed us to buy that land and set it up as a sanctuary. We have a caretaker that lives there, and on adoption days, every Saturday, they're adopting out animals. We do all sorts of things with the vets. We do like emergency medical care. We give out free food for people that are struggling with their animals. We got a whole routine going on, so it's very fulfilling. And my thing is, if there's a ticket to the upstairs to the next level, I'm hoping I got mine punched. That's what I'm hoping. We will see.
I'm sure you do, man. I'm sure you do. You provide such an incredible service, and I know you've got some great information and insights to share with us today on the wonderful world of real estate and some of the lessons that you've learned over the years, and how those lessons provided you cash flow so you could support that charity and other noble endeavors. So, man, take it away. What do you got for us today?
Well, what I want to talk about today, it's a little more of a mindset conversation than a tactical thing, because we've talked about apartment buildings and we talk about fixing and flipping and all that. But one of the things that takes people some effort in doing is sort of changing the way they think to get into this business. And one of the questions I will always ask people when they're I want to break out of what I'm in. I'm in a rut. I'm struggling. I'm doing this, and I'm like, who are you hanging out with?
Yeah.
And it's so important, because especially when you're trying to make a break like this to be a real estate investor, there's plenty of people that are going to tell you why it won't work. I mean, and they might be living in your house with you. Okay. So are you hanging out with folks that will reinforce what you're trying to do or are doing what you're trying to do? Or are you hanging out with people that just say this won't work? Because it's very easy to say this won't work. Because what is it? Either you believe it will or you believe it won't. Whichever way, that's the way it's going to go. There's some sort of version like that,
whichever thing you're right. I mean, that is it.
That's right.
Yeah, and you sound as though you're speaking from some personal experience as well.
Oh, sure. I got into real estate because I was working a corporate job. I loved my corporate job. I had the coolest engineering job in the world. And for 23 years, I worked that job. I rose the ladder. I was doing really well. And then the company changed. It sold out to another company, and they said, we don't need you anymore. I thought I'd retire from that company, right?
Right.
Nope. If you don't own it, you don't control it. And so I found myself reinventing myself at, 40 years old. And how many people are out there that are like that? You guys I can't see the chat lines, but how many of you guys have been laid off from a company or had to start over? It's a little humbling. You got to figure it out. So anyway, I looked into the real estate thing and I started learning this is back in like 1999, 2000. And I was learning books and tapes and CDs and courses and, asking everybody I could ask how to do this stuff. And it was hard because there really wasn't like a Renatus community. There was just bits and pieces and gurus floating around, and you had to piece together. But what I wanted to talk about today is the whole idea of wealth, of becoming wealthy, and how it's actually simpler than most people think. And there's 3 words that I want folks to think about: wealth, income, and cash flow. Those 3 words are so important. And when we talk about wealth, in real estate, it's the only asset class you can do this. You guys can create wealth instantly simply by buying properties at a discount. So if you learn to go out and find in my world, $100,000 house, but you can buy that property for $40,000 because there's some sort of a problem. There's either a property problem or a people problem, right? Divorce, foreclosure, probate, tired landlords, illness, incarceration, lead-based paint. It goes on and on. But the person to sell, that property is not an asset to them anymore. And guys, this happens every day. It may be you because you're not in the flow. You're not thinking this way. But let's say you buy that $100,000 house for $40,000. Just the act, just the closing at that closing table, you're now $60,000 wealthier. 100 minus 40, you're $60,000 wealthier. How long does it take somebody that's not here, that's working real hard, 3 jobs? How long does it take that person to save $60,000? Most people, the answer will be never. It's that hard. But it's the mindset, because we're taught from like we were little, chase income, wages and income, right? Get a job. I want income. I need more money. I got to work harder. I need a second job. I need a promotion. My wife has to go to work. My spouse has to go to work. My dog has to go to work. Whatever it is. And that's the hardest way there is. But in real estate, by simply buying property discount, you create. I mean, when I realized this, it was like, oh my God, this can't be true, right? It was like denial. And you could do it again. And then if you understand the tax code, and this is why, guys, it's so important to get educated. Out of the income, cash flow, which one does the government tax on April 15th? They only tax one of them. Income. It's an income tax. It's so simple. We don't tax wealth. We don't tax cash flow. Everybody's chasing income. So you can create wealth and totally bypass the tax code. I mean, the simplest way to become wealthy, and what's cool about this is your financial planner, they're going to put you into what? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, Bitcoin, gold, silver, all those, I guess, exchange-regulated investments. Real estate is the only investment you buy at a discount and create the wealth instantly. You can't buy a stock at a discount. If Microsoft trades for $300 a share, you can't buy it for $200 a share. Right? You can't buy, what's another? Gold. Gold trades for $3,300 an ounce. You can't buy it for $2,000 an ounce.
Yeah, can't do it with crypto. Can't do it with anything else.
Buy it anything else. And so all they put into, you've got to buy them at full value and hope and pray that they go up. That's it. You have no control. In real estate, you buy it at a discount, you create the wealth instantly, and then you have control over what happens, what you can do, how you can create value with that asset. You know, I fancy myself a value creation expert. That's my title. Because my job is to create value, and your job too when you're in real estate, is to create for who your customer is. At first, it's the seller when you're buying the property. You're trying to create value for that person. Then, once you own the property, it's going to be your tenant, right? And then when you sell the property, especially if you do seller financing, it might be the buyer. And in the meantime, you're creating value for your contractors. You're creating value for your lenders or your investors. This whole group of folks that you're creating value for, you're like the maestro in the orchestra. And once people start realizing this, it's a fascinating business. It's just we're not taught this in school. It's amazing. It's like all this. I have 3 engineering degrees. As I joke, I'm a couple credits short of a rocket scientist. And yeah, I learn stuff. And then long you start picking it up. And that's one of the reasons why I found Renatus, I was impressed, because the different practitioner instructors are experts in areas I didn't know anything about. You know, I have long conversations with Jeff Armstrong about seller financing. And when I learned some things about seller financing, I'm like, I know my exit strategy. I'm not going to sell my properties. I'll just notes and have annuities for the rest of my life. Right? And even just Chris Albin and Chris Wilson and all these folks that are really smart in their area, you pick up stuff, add this model, and it all of a sudden it just blossoms. You know, it's amazing how that works. But the wealth creation, when I was talking with Tara, she says, well, what do you want to call the presentation? I said, creating wealth out of thin air. And by buying properties at a discount, that's all you got to do. Right? And think how complicated everybody makes it. right? And when I'm teaching, like I'll teach stuff I do a deal or no deal presentation during the week for the group. And I will often ask people, are you making offers? Be like, well, no, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, go out and make 10 offers. Make 10 offers at 40 cents on the dollar. I want you to get a no. In fact, I'm hoping there's a couple of heck no's in there. 'Cause you'll get over it. And then life becomes a lot easier because within those no's, you'll be surprised how many yeses there are. It's just people don't ask the question, hey, would you like to sell it? It's amazing how right? How many deals?
It's because most folks just can't grasp the concept that individuals who are financially distressed, that doesn't mean the home's distressed, that means they're financially distressed, will trade equity for peace of mind. And I think there's a lot of folks that have difficulty wrapping their mind around that because they think, well, I wouldn't do that. Well, if you were in a financially distressed and difficult position, you probably would.
Yeah. And believe me, I've been on the other side. I've had properties that, you know how every now and then you get a property that I think is cursed? There's some sort of a ghost in the property. It's nothing but bad news.
Yes.
I've been on the other side where somebody says, is your property for sale? My thing is, make me an offer.
Yeah.
Right?
So Bill, I'm kind of curious. You know, you talked about that mindset being the first thing that really changes for individuals as they transition in their life into becoming a real estate investor or a value creation expert. I love that title that you gave yourself. What do those steps look like?
Well, I think the first step actually is you have to get annoyed enough at your own situation to make a change. Comfortable people aren't going to change.
Right.
But everybody, at some point, something happens. They lose a job, divorce, something, or they just get tired of what they're doing. And now they're open to the change. Okay? And at that point, then the question is, okay, well, if I want to do real estate, if I want to own a business, what sort of an ecosystem do I have to put myself in? Because think about most people that are in their ecosystem, they're in a job. Everybody works for the same company. Everybody understands the boss, the raises, the promotions, all the things that go on. But you got to break into that entrepreneurial mindset. You got to break into no, I control my own destiny. And that's scary for people. It's scary for me, right? It's like, hey, Bill, you don't have a job anymore. Okay. That changes my priorities.
So, Bill, how did you make the transition? Because that'll probably help people understand, what that looks like.
Well, this is my suggestion to everybody. Look, if you have a job and you're happy with it, still get yourself a couple of rental houses. Start the process. And if your job is great and it lasts until you're 65 and you have a pension and God bless you. But the idea being is you've got something else going on that if the job goes away, you can go to that. And you don't have to start from scratch, right? And guys, look, all the investors out here know this. The first house is the hardest, right? It's scary. You don't sleep at night. You're waking up staring at the ceiling. You think you're an idiot. Other people think you're an idiot. And finally, right? You do, and then you do the closing, and it works, and then everybody says, "Oh yeah, I knew that would be successful." After it works, right? And the second one is half as hard as the first one, and the third one is it's like a half-life thing, like in radiation, and it's just a matter of doing it until you are bulletproof in your belief that it works. That's the point. When you hit that point, you are off to the races, man. Right? Jay has his properties and stuff. Jay, on your first property, were you a little nervous when you bought your first house?
Oh, very nervous. In fact, my wife had to pull me kicking and screaming into real estate.
You were on a ledge looking down, right? And Whitney says, "Get back in here."
Oh yeah, I was like, "This is not going to work," and she's like, "This is going to work." Yeah, it took me a little while to get there.
Isn't it amazing how the wives are the ones who have the confidence and the guys are struggling with it? It's just something about it.
Trust me, my wife was the same way. But see, Holly had an advantage. The advantage that she had was that her parents were real estate investors. So she was raised in a home where they were always buying rental property, and they'd buy a home and and they would fix it up, and then they'd rent it out for a while, and then they might sell it and buy a better property or buy two properties. They did that for their entire working careers because my father-in-law was a corporate executive in a big company, and he never went full-time real estate, but he always was a part-time investor. And that part-time investment is what secured his long-term retirement. It wasn't his pension from that big corporate company. It was his real estate that did it.
Guys, real estate is it's really a magical asset class. I mean, with all the benefits, the three things that I say when I'm doing a little presentation for people, I say, look, one, you can buy it at a discount. Else is like that. Two, somebody's going to rent it from you once you own it. Somebody needs an asset. Now, if you buy a gold brick or a Bitcoin, nobody needs to rent that from you. Nobody's going to live underneath your gold brick. And this is the difference between being a landlord and a value creation expert. If you really understand your customer, who is your tenant, you can create incredible value. And I'll give you an example, okay? And this is a model I fell into, but I love it. I only rent to people that aspire to buying my houses. Everything I do is a rent-to-buy situation, okay? And I don't do it I actually don't do it for the option fee to get money up front. I use it, okay? I do it so the tenants have skin in the game. Because I have learned over time that the best correlation between whether people will stick with a deal, it's not their credit check, it's not their references, it's not whatever, how much they have invested in the deal. And so I am looking for a caliber of person that when they get into that house, they're going to treat it like it's theirs.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing right now, guys, is this market is spectacular. Here's a statistic that I've just glommed onto. 90% of the U.S. population right now cannot get a mortgage from a bank.
What was that percentage again?
90%.
90%.
Whoa.
90% of the U.S. population. We don't know this. The banks are lending to the same top percent, 10%. But the average person in the United States, Walmart employee, the guy and the gal living in middle America or Georgia, where I live, working at Walmart, working at Target, maybe the Board of Education for $30,000 a year. Just decent jobs, but they don't qualify. They used to qualify when interest rates were 2%. Now, they don't stand a chance. But you know what? I give my tenants hope. My tenants, and I tell them, I say, if you just take care of this place, right thing, eventually you can buy it. And nobody else will make that offer to anybody. And what's amazing is most of the time they don't buy it. They just like the idea that they have something to look forward to. They have something that is going to be good. And you know what? I have people live in my houses for 20 years and never buy them, and then they don't want to. This is a good story because you guys will appreciate this. So I had a house. The guy has lived in the house for 20 years, and I kept saying, Chris, don't you want to buy this place? I mean, you've paid it off like 5 times already for me. I said, I'd be glad to sell it to you. And he says, do I have to? That wasn't what I was expecting, right? I said, well, okay, no, you don't have to, but explain to me. He said, I had a house once. In 1999 or 2000, I did everything they told me to do. I got my credit squared away, I got a down payment, I got a loan, and I bought a house. And then the crash hit. I lost my job. And I lost my job, and my wife left me because she said I was a bum. My kids were mad because we had to move to another district. I lost my dog because I couldn't find a place to rent that would take my dog. He says, now I rent your house. He says, if I'm a little bit late, you just text me. It's no big deal. He said, I take care of this place like it's mine. My friends come over. They love it. He said, I'm thrilled. Can I just stay here till I die? And I said, until you die or I die. I said, somebody's going to die. I said, but sure, you're good. And again, I have become an expert on I've become a student of my tenants. Guys, you don't know what your tenant's lifestyle, especially like I rent basic houses. I'm not renting beautiful $400,000 houses with swimming pools. I'm renting basic thousand square foot houses to middle America folks. Have you ever been to jail? I've never been to jail. You know what? A lot of my tenants have. Um, have you ever had a car repossessed? I haven't. You probably haven't, but my tenants have. So there's so many things in their lives that I didn't understand, and once I started understanding it, I understood how to create value in their situation. Because what matters is their perspective, not mine. My customer is the tenant. And boy, guys, once you learn how to, if you guys do what I'm talking about, it's amazing how appreciative people will be, right? And here's a little saying I say. People hear these stories about, oh, I don't want to be a landlord. The tenants are terrible. They tear the house apart. Hey, I've been there. But I'll tell you something I've learned. If you're having problems with tenants, it's actually not the tenant's fault. It's your fault. Because you're the adult in the room. You're the one who's got to create enough value so that the tenant isn't going to do that. Right. And
Right.
when I give somebody an option and they have the opportunity to buy the house, all of a sudden their relationship with that property totally changes. And when COVID hit, remember when COVID was going on and they had that eviction moratorium thing? And a lot of people got hurt by that. A lot of apartment building people. I didn't have any problem with that because the value I was creating was much higher than the shelter. My tenants didn't leave because they didn't have to pay the rent, because they knew they couldn't find a better deal of what they were getting from me. And they would crawl over broken glass to pay the rent. And that was a lesson. I learned that, right? Now that we're both on the same side, it's like, look, you got to pay the rent if you want to keep this deal. And how did I get off on that tangent?
Actually, that's not a bad tangent to get on because, I mean, Bill, what you're describing is, I think, the American dream for so many. And that is for individuals who want to provide good, solid, clean, affordable housing for other individuals. There's a tremendous business that can be realized from that. And then you can provide that housing to individuals who otherwise don't have that same opportunity. That's really what you're describing here. So, Bill, what got you into that mode? I mean, you could have chosen a number of different avenues to pursue with real estate investing, but you've really carved out a very important niche of helping to provide clean, affordable housing and then making that housing available for sale to your renters. How did that come about?
Well, the one thing was moving to rural Georgia. I came from South Florida, which is very suburban and very wealthy.
Yeah.
And when I came to where I live in Georgia, it's like two worlds. There's the lake, which all the wealthy people live on the lake, but the rest of the county is the working folk, the folks that support the lake communities. And I started realizing that, and this is again 10, 15 years ago, the property prices were low compared to what you were getting. I mean, I was picking, after the crash, oh my God, I was picking up properties for $10,000 a pop. The banks were giving them away. And, now they're worth $100,000. So it was almost like this is the environment I'm in, because I don't invest like on the other side of the world. I just invest within like 40 miles of my house. So my joke is, so I can drive over and knock on the door if the phone's disconnected. Hello, need the rent, and then run around back when they run out the door and catch them that way. But yeah, that's how I got into it. And the thing that actually, and this is important for you guys, not you guys, but the people in the audience. The thing that matters, man, in this business is cash flow. It is oxygen. So when you're doing real estate, especially if you're going to do rental real estate, what you're focusing on is how much cash flow can I generate from this property? What do I need to rent it as a single family? Is it going to be rented as student housing? Could it be a short-term rental? Whatever it is, but I want to maximize cash flow because cash flow keeps you out of trouble. Okay, the world is full of broke millionaires. And right now, guys, there's a lot of broke millionaires out there. What is that? $1 million worth of equity, can't pay the bills.
Right.
They don't have cash flow to pay the bills. And I'm telling you, that all comes tumbling down. So don't be a broke millionaire. Focus on cash flow. And that's what keeps you out of trouble. And this is interesting. When I started out, and this is like on those other websites and stuff, they would talk about cap rates, and I'll just refer to cap rates even for residential. But they would say, oh, if your cap rate is 8, 9, 10, that's great. Or the 1% rule. Woo-wee, I guess that's a 12, right? And then you start to realize that's the beginning. So my first property had a cap rate of, let's say, 10. Well, then I had the second one, I did something different, and I had a cap rate of 20. I go, well, what does it take to get a 30? Did something different, got a 30. Well, what's the limit? Can you do 100? Yep. Depends on how cheaply you buy the property. If Steve Johnson's on the line, Steve's one of my best friends. He actually bought a property in Georgia that added off the lot and sold the furniture from the estate. He got the house for free.
Oh,
so that's
wow.
a cap rate of it.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Is that a great deal?
That's a great deal.
Steve, if you're out there, I'm not worthy. So, yes, and this happens. But here's what I'm saying to the folks that are in the audience. Are you out with people that are doing this? Because if you go ask your friends that you go to barbecues and football games with, they won't have a clue on this stuff. And I wouldn't expect them to. Okay? So one of the things I was fascinated by Renatus was this whole community of investors. And I tell people, I said, are you hanging out with people you're comfortable with or that inspire you? There's a huge difference, right? Every group, we're all moving in the same direction, different paces, starting from different levels, but we're all going towards that financial independence, passive retirement, all that sort of thing. There's always somebody who's a little farther than you that is an inspiration. It's like, you know what a person is. And you can talk to them, you can work with them. Sometimes, there might even be a joint venture or something. But those are the people you want with. Because if you're just hanging out with folks that are, the world sucks and everything's crappy, and it's like,
right.
That's not going to happen.
So Bill, you're talking about the law of association and how important that is and how that also impacts mindset. So when you were making the transition from employee to business owner, entrepreneur, employer, what did you do to connect with those kinds of people that you could spend time with and glean wisdom from, glean experience from, and that would lift you to become more confident?
When I started out, I had a couple of friends that were doing real estate, and I did lean on them. They were successful, and I got a lot out of them. But it was still not much. I had to do a lot of stuff just on my own. It was sort of a lonely journey at the beginning. Now, let me tell you, once you start becoming successful, you got lots of friends. Everybody wants to hang around at that point, right?
Right.
When you're starting out, they're like, oh, I'm going to the football game. I got a barbecue. I don't want to mess with this real estate thing. And it's like, okay, well, I got to go look at properties. I got to go make offers. I got to go deal with a contractor. But that's the beauty of Renatus. When I saw it, I was like, man, I wish this was around when I got started, because it would have been a lot easier than trying to figure it out.
It's the great force multiplier. I mean, it really is, because it puts people
into
an environment where they're surrounded by other like-minded entrepreneurs and investors and everything else. Because I can tell you this, that was the importance of creating it. Because when I first started out, I knew the value of hanging out with successful individuals. The problem was they didn't want to hang out with me, right? So I needed to become something that was attractive to them. I needed to become someone who was attractive to them so that they'd want to make me their friend and bring me into their inner circle. And that's such a big part of things. We started the discussion with you saying, man, I want to talk about mindset, about how wealth is a mindset. I'd love for you to expand on that a little bit more.
Okay, real easy. Wealthy people have wealth. I know.
Should I write that down? Should I?
You should write that down.
Hey, I'm writing it down.
You're writing that down. Write that down, Jay.
Wealthy people have wealth. They're not wagey. Really, it comes down to this. The goal is to acquire cash flowing assets at a discount to today's price. If I've said this a million times, it's just what it comes down to. And even Grant Cardone, he's stealing my stuff. I saw an article on the internet the other day, and he says, wealthy people hate income. Well, think about it. What they're doing is they're creating stuff, they're building something, and then that something's going to spin off cash flow.
Right.
That's the focus. And you could have 3 jobs. You could be really talented, but you don't control your own destiny, right? You can lose that job. Think of a COVID. I feel so bad for the people that had restaurants or, whatever it was that was affected by this crazy event, and they lost everything. And it wasn't their fault. It was just the way it went. It was just circumstance.
Yeah.
But in real estate, the beauty about real estate is everybody needs a place to live. I mean, I don't think Apple is ever going to write an app on their phone that gets rid of the need for housing. Now, if they do, I'm going to be really impressed, okay? And I will buy it. But you need a place to live. You need food. You need basic essentials, and housing is just the most basic of them all. And so that's the reason that I gravitate towards that, because it is low risk compared to other businesses, right?
Right.
But coming back to the wealthy thing, again, the working people, we were talking about fix and flips and wholesaling at the beginning of this meeting. And working people do it and they get paid. They do it, they get paid. They work all week long, they get paid on Friday. Wealthy people, they work also, but they work at setting it up. They work once and then they get paid. So it's nonlinear, right? But that's not what they teach you in school. What do they teach you? They teach you to be dependent upon the system, the banks, the corporations, the government, Wall Street. You need those people. And not in the entrepreneurial world, right? If you're going to be wealthy, you want to set stuff up and let it just make money for you on autopilot. Now, look, real estate's not the best. You know what the best is? Intellectual property. If you can write the next top 40 song and make money for the next 100 years, there's no toilets and tenants and termites and trash in that. But most of us are mere mortals, and we don't have that talent, right? Everybody can do real estate. In fact, here's another thing about real estate that's amazing. I ask people, I say, what do you do for a living? And they'll say, well, I am a customer service rep. And I say, no. From today on, you're a customer service rep and a real estate investor. And they're like, well, what are you talking about? I go, do you live in a house? Well, I live in an apartment. Do you pay rent? Yep. You're a real estate investor. You're in real estate deals. You're just on the consuming side. I want to get you on the producing side, okay? But everybody here, unless they're living in their car down by the river, they already are a real estate investor. And the other thing is that changes your mindset. And Bob, you'll see this in a meeting. Watch people that do it. They'll say, hey, I'm a brain surgeon, and I'm figuring out, neuroscience and all this exotic stuff, and I'm a real estate investor.
Right.
Guess which part people will ask about?
Being a real estate investor.
Yeah. That brain stuff is really neat. That's saving the world. Yeah, that's cool. But this real estate thing, how does that work?
Exactly.
Right? And it's human nature, because everybody knows folks that have gotten very wealthy and successful in real estate. And so they gravitate towards, they want to hear about it. It's almost like this mystery thing. And we're right in the midst of it. Everybody, and what's amazing? It's like Canada. We get people in Canada that are in Renatus, and they're investing in the U.S. because the U.S. is so much better than Canada as far as the prices and the values and everything else. And we don't realize how great we have it in the U.S.
Boy, the rest of the world does. They recognize it. I'm amazed at the number of people that are from around the world that are investing by buying property in the United States. But you don't see a lot of U.S. citizens going overseas to buy property there.
No. But listen, we got a little thing. This is important, okay? There's no deals in Georgia.
There's none.
Just
So-
move right
There's
along.
none. No more
Terrible.
deals in Georgia.
Keep on moving.
Go to Florida, South Carolina, Georgia is a disaster. You don't want anything to do with Georgia.
That's why the devil went down to Georgia, right?
Exactly.
That's right,
Devil
that's
was here, got all the deals, move on.
Okay, so Bill, on your sign a little bit ago, it said 67 cash flows. What does that mean?
Oh, I got to say it's 67 times. I had a meeting
67
one time.
times.
Yes, I had 67 times, and somebody counted the number of times I said cash flow,
Nice.
so I wrote it down. I said, if I haven't
Is
said
that
it
what that
67
was? Okay.
times, then I haven't said it enough.
So I'm curious, when you were transitioning from being an engineer to becoming a full-time real estate investor, what were some of the things that you had to let go of?
Well, knowing I'd get a paycheck on Friday or every other Friday,
Mhm.
I mean, believe you guys know that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And you're getting those checks. You have all of a sudden you're on your own, right? Now that's why I gravitated, because that was the closest I could get to steady money coming in. You guys that do the fix and flips, I love you, but man, that's a lot of work, right? But if you can get a rental unit going and get a tenant that appreciates what you're doing and they're going to live there for a decade, that's what most people last,
Right.
right? It's like especially now. It used to be you had a pension and you work for 40 years, but no more, man. Your job goes away. You're out on the street looking. So real estate actually can give you that steady income. And Bob Tierney said something. I was explaining my model, and he goes, "Looking for passive income. You're looking for comatose income." Yes, that's what I'm looking for. I
love
want it
that.
to be so low energy. It's like, oh, another check. I got more money from somebody.
Right.
This is good.
Hey, now listen, you were talking earlier, you mentioned, the struggle that individuals are dealing with in today's economy. Some of the issues and challenges that folks have getting a mortgage and getting, permanent traditional financing. What would you say to those folks who say, man, I've always wanted to be a real estate investor, but now's just not the right time? I mean, look at the economy. Now's just not the right time. Interest rates are up,
no,
right?
No, it's not going to work.
Yeah. What would you say to them, Bill?
Well, I would say to the United States is 20 years ago. You know when the second best time to buy real estate? Now. Guys, it's always the reason why you can't, right? I mean,
Right.
The crash in 2008, I mean, real estate was a curse word for 5 years after, right? Nobody wanted to hear anything about real estate. So it was only the intrepid that went out and bought the properties because they knew that this was going to, pass over them. But unless, like I said, we're going to get rid of the need for housing, real estate's like guaranteed to make money if you know what you're doing, right? And here's an example: subject to financing. And I learned this at Renatus. Okay, I never did subject to financing, but all of these mortgages that were written at 3.5% for years. And now they're fixed mortgages and people are defaulting on those. And you can buy properties with financing that is unheard of, right? I mean, I don't want to, if you guys that are in the classes, you understand subject too, but it's a whole amazing financing method that you can build huge portfolios on if you know how to use that subject to financing. Right there is, and think, when have we ever had the stars for subject to like there is? Never. This is the best it's going to get. So when you're doing real estate, you're changing your model depending on the circumstances. Okay, so for a while, REOs are the way to buy properties. For a while, it is subject tos. For a while, it might be, I don't know, new construction, whatever it is. But if you understand, if as my buddy say, if you're a transactional engineer, Bob Tierney, you can create value in any circumstance. That's the beauty of real estate. If you're just a one-trick pony, yeah, you're running yourself a little bit lean there. You could run into a trouble. But that's why I'm saying learn learn how to create value with any set of circumstances. Then you're valuable to people all the time because everybody's got to live somewhere, right? So that's what I would tell people. And my biggest craze right now, and Oehme will tell you that, is mobile homes. Oh my goodness, guys. If you're not looking at mobile homes, you should be. I mean, this is our stance. For 20 years, I never did mobile homes, or actually 15. Everybody told me, I didn't know, mobile homes are bad. They're a depreciating asset. You're going to be a slumlord. And I go, oh, okay, I don't want to be a slumlord. And then I met a guy in Georgia that was dollars, and he drove an old pickup truck. And I said, how'd you make $50 million? He says, mobile homes. I said, if I'm lunch, will you tell me about mobile homes? He says, as long as you're buying, I'm talking. The whole afternoon. And he told me everything. He told me more stories than I could ever figure out. I was like 80 years old.
Right.
But it was and here's a statistic I didn't know. We don't know what we don't know. In Georgia, 10% of the population lives in mobile homes.
Wow.
In South Carolina,
I wouldn't have guessed it was that high.
But it gets better. In South Carolina, that's the highest. It's 16% of South Carolinians live in mobile homes.
Wow.
No kidding?
I know. Hey, what is his name? Warren Buffett bought Clayton Homes, man. He's no dummy.
Yeah.
He sees what the future is. So, guys, and when I say guys, I'm talking about just the people watching on the thing here. But keep in mind, like we talk about affordable housing. What can we do to provide housing? Because there's such a shortage. There's such a shortage of housing out there. People call me on the phone crying. It's like, man, you've got to help me. I got no place to live. My landlord just raised my rent $600 a month. And I'm like, boy, that's brutal. But what can we do to help these folks? That's what you want to be looking at. Solve the problem and you can make a fortune. And I'm telling you, affordable housing is a multi-billion-dollar problem.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's not going to be one way. It's going to be multiple ways. But there is so much money to be made.
I agree.
And, safe money, not crazy speculative money, safe money.
I was blown away this last week because I spent some time in Moab, Utah, running the Red Rocks and exploring all the fun sites down there. I was really blown away by the number of small homes. I mean, homes that are going up in neighborhoods where they're building entire neighborhoods of homes that are literally 800 to 1,200 square feet.
Yep.
So
that's the sweet spot.
So it's all about the affordability factor. Now, I was also pleasantly surprised to see how many multi-million-dollar homes are going up that are right outside of Slick Rock, the state park down there, and some of the other areas too. So they're getting a good mix of those who want to buy a second home and just vacation in Moab versus those individuals who want to live there, but they can't afford it unless they're into a smaller home. And these are nice houses. They're just, scaled down.
So Bill, I know that we're running out of time. I wanted to give our audience an opportunity to write in any questions that they may have. And I'm curious if you could step back in time and talk to yourself as you were first transitioning into that wealthy mindset. What would be the first piece of advice you would give yourself?
Don't be as afraid as I was.
Yeah.
I was a scaredy cat real estate investor. And now, there's a balance between going crazy and blowing it up and being scared. And I think I leaned on the conservative bit a little too much. I could have had another 50 or 60 houses if I wasn't, and that was me. That was just mindset. Right? The numbers worked. I had the financing. I could do whatever I wanted. And I'm like, I don't think I can do this. That limited what I could do. It was all me. Gotcha. So, yeah. And it's like everybody's got that inner fear. Everybody's got the, I can't do this, or this is my limit, what I can do. Yeah. If you can get in a group where you can move that up a little bit, you'd be surprised how much more you can do.
And I love that. Yeah, I love how much you've talked about that, about elevating the people that you surround yourself with and being inspired by the individuals that you invest that time with. I also love the point that you made, which is that as you're striking out, you have to be willing to go alone. You don't have to go alone for long, but you have to be willing to go alone so that you can go where you haven't been before and where maybe even the people around you have never been before. I think that's such a valuable lesson that so many people, just as you just said, they get stopped by that fear. They get stopped by that unknown of what comes next, or imagining the worst of what could possibly happen next. I love that you really highlighted that.
That's me.
Yeah.
Right? It's like in the middle of the night, oh my God, this is all going to blow up. I'm going to be living on the streets. And then you realize, no, you've done this 50 times. It doesn't blow up. That's not how it works, right?
So of all the deals that you've done, now, I mean, now that you've just kind of stepped into that role and you've got a lot of years under your belt as an investor, how many of those were like fix and flips or wholesale deals, short-term kind of things that you wish you'd have hung on to so that they're still a part of your buy and hold portfolio today?
Man, I probably did 20 deals that if I would have held on to them, I'd be worth $10 million more.
Yeah.
But at the time, the cash flow was a little bit short. I could take the quick win, take the W and move on. But who knew that property values were going to double in life? I mean, that was absurd, right?
Yeah.
Nobody thought that, but it did. And this is something, guys, this inflation thing is a game changer. When inflation comes, and look, your government's going to do, every government does this. They overspend and they cause inflation. But when inflation hits, the first thing that goes up is asset prices.
Yep.
So what went up when inflation started? Stock market, real estate. Then it goes into consumer prices, and that's when the public gets excited. But by that time, wealthy people have gotten stinkingly wealthy, right? So people that own property that, it doubled and tripled in price, they're worth $1 million, $2 million more. They didn't do anything. They didn't go to work for that $5 million. They were just there. But the poor wages, the wages never keep up.
Yeah.
They never keep up, and the standard of living goes down. And, how many people do you know out there are just like, I can't pay my bills. What the heck happened? TV thinks fine, and it's not fine. Yeah. So if I can give you guys one thing, is get some assets, get some cash flowing assets at today's value. Write that on your every day and make a little effort towards it.
Right.
I know this is going to make Matt really happy. I'm going to go ahead and read the disclaimer that he just dropped in the chat here, so we can get this one recorded for everyone.
Did I say something wrong?
Real estate involves risk. Income, profits, and success are not guaranteed. Results vary based on effort, experience, market conditions, and other factors. I just wanted to put that one out there because, Bill, you have painted such a picture of possibility that while there really is so much opportunity, I don't want anyone to think that you didn't have to work for it. I don't want anyone to think that there wasn't risk involved. We love to say that in real estate there is no ceiling, but there is no floor. So there really is no cap to how much you can make, but there's no cap to how much you can lose either. So you just got to be really educated and surround yourself with people that have been where you want to go and who can mentor you, can assist you along the way. Now, I've loved our time together, and Bill, you have been a wealth of information, and your excitement for what you're creating is so contagious. I love it. But I want to make sure that we have a couple minutes left for some of the updates that you've got.
And we certainly do. And you know what? I haven't got a lot of updates today, but I do just also want to speak to Bill and say thank you, man. Thanks for being a part of the community. Thanks for taking a chance on us. I remember in the very beginning your skepticism about the Renatus community and our education and everything else. And today, to see you not only as a very successful investor, but also become an instructor because you understand the value of paying it forward and giving back, and your strategies for helping renters become owners is a powerful class inside of the Renatus community and curriculum. So, Bill, I can't thank you enough for being our special guest and for all that you do.
I appreciate the opportunity, Bob, and it's really a thrill. And anytime I can help, I'm more than willing to help. And thank you for putting this whole thing together, because without you and Jen and the home team, we wouldn't have this whole ecosystem put together.
You know what? Team is the optimal word there, because together everyone achieves more. I mean, that's probably an overused acronym there, but it's so true, and that's exactly what we do. So thank you, because you've helped us to achieve a great deal more being on our team, Bill. So thank you, my friend. Anyway, I want to just dive into it. I've just got a couple of things that I just wanted to make mention of, and that is, let me see here, is that there's always individuals who want to reach out to us and say, hey, I love what you're doing with Renatus. I love the Renatus InvestEdge. I'm here every single Monday, gleaning words of wisdom. But I need a little bit more, a little bit more information, a little bit more understanding of the real estate game. Listen, if that's you, then we're here for you. Why don't you reach out? We'll set up a 15-minute free consultation call where you can speak to one of our real estate experts and find out whether or not we've got something here that may be of interest to you or may be of benefit to you. I also have individuals who are seasoned investors, and they go, hey, listen, I know that what I know is powerful and has done well for me, but I don't know what I don't know. So I'd like to get more information, more education. You got 43 practitioner instructors, 90 full-day classes, this great community of investors across the country. How do I find out more about you? Same thing, that link and QR code that we threw up on the screen right there, and there it is again. And just, give us a call. Set up a time, or I should say set up a time on the calendar, and we'll have one of our consultants reach out to you. That way they can answer any questions, see whether or not we've got something that might be a good fit for you. Now,
and you could be the next Bill Oehme. Who knows? I mean,
absolutely.
Bill came to us with just years of experience in understanding real estate investing, and still found so much value that he not only made the investment in the education, but has immersed himself into the community, into the network, and is now one of our leaders and our beloved practitioner instructors.
Yep, absolutely. I'm actually blown away by how many of our students have moved into the role of educator. I was sitting here in my mind, I was thinking, well, gee, you got Brian Sump, you got Gavin McCaleb, you got Oehme Hawk, you got Bill Predabon. I mean, the list, Bill Oehme, the list goes on and on and on with individuals who have become really successful in their investing career and now are paying it forward by creating curriculum and classes and sharing their preferred strategy. So yeah, it is an amazing thing that we've created. And speaking of a couple of those individuals, we've got live education that's going to be coming up right here in the Renatus studio, where we're filming 2 new classes. On Thursday, May 15th, we've got Bill Predabon. His class is called From the Ground Up. You're going to love this strategy. I mean, he is just crushing it right now with that. Oehme Hawk is going to be here on Friday, May 16th. He's doing a full-day class on monetizing mobile home parks. Now, what we do is we invite our studio audience to come in and participate in those. And then our educators, or I should say our education holders who own the packages that those classes are going to go into, listen, they get 24/7 access to those going forward, plus a community of investors to plug into. These are going to be a couple of fantastic classes that I think everybody is really going to appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, you guys just heard Bill talk about the power of mobile home parks.
Yes.
Well, Oehme is going to talk all about how to leverage that into multiple income streams out of a single investment. It's such a cool strategy. And what Bill's going to talk about, I mean, we talk about affordability when it comes to housing, and a lot of government officials have stopped using the word affordable and have started to use the word attainable. So Bill's going to talk a lot about how you can take an existing property, strip it down, and make it even more valuable by potentially adding new units to it, or being able to rehab the home, and how to navigate all of the red tape that municipalities have to ensure that you're doing it correctly. And it's going to be so cool. I'm so excited for these two courses.
It is going to be cool. It's going to be fantastic. And here's the thing. We've mentioned home. We've talked about houses. We've talked about homes, right?
Yep.
Well, I love this slide. Because with Renatus, listen, if home is where the heart is, shouldn't your business be there too? And as a real estate investor, it can be. Whether you're a part-time investor, whether you're a full-time investor, whether you're just a sometime investor, the nice thing about it is that you can create a business that you can operate from the comfort of your own home, so that you can involve your family and help the next generation understand why we love real estate and why you do too. So I appreciate this discussion today. It's been fantastic. Thank you once again, Mr. Bill Oehme. Thanks, Jay Stark, for being my co-host here, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week, because we got another episode of Renatus InvestEdge coming up. You don't want to miss it, because we got a topic next week that will blow your mind. We'll see you then.
Thanks, everybody.